The Galactic Empire's fleet hovered on the edge of a star system, its ships vast and imposing, brimming with weaponry. Admiral Zurak stood aboard the command ship, surveying the situation. His posture was rigid, his uniform immaculate, a perfect reflection of the Empire's disciplined military order. They had encountered many species in their conquests, and none had posed a serious challenge. Zurak had little reason to think this new species, the humans, would be any different. Reports from the reconnaissance vessels had been peculiar. There were mentions of strange radio transmissions, a complete lack of proper military formations, and even an odd form of music being broadcast. But that didn't concern the Admiral. Primitive cultures often had strange customs. What mattered was power, and the Galactic Empire had plenty of it. The Empire's message of submission was transmitted, as it always was. Standard procedure. The terms were simple: surrender unconditionally, provide resources, and serve the Empire's expansion. This had worked countless times before. Why would this be different? As the message was transmitted, the response came back almost immediately, but instead of the usual trembling voices of fear and desperation, there was laughter. Genuine, unrestrained laughter echoed through the communications channel, causing the entire bridge to pause in confusion. Admiral Zurak raised an eyebrow, his expression a mixture of disbelief and irritation. The human voice on the other end spoke up. "Hey, yeah, we got your message. Surrender? Nah, we're good. Thanks, though. But seriously, who writes this stuff? You guys auditioning for a movie role or something?" Silence enveloped the Imperial Bridge. Zurak clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. This was unprecedented. No species had ever dared mock the Empire so openly. The crew shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to proceed. Zurak took a deep breath and ordered the communication channel closed. This, he decided, was merely a misunderstanding. A species this primitive couldn't possibly understand the gravity of the situation. They would need a demonstration. Meanwhile, aboard the human fleet, the mood was drastically different. The bridge of the lead ship, the S.S. Casual Friday, was relaxed, to say the least. Captain Torres leaned back in his chair, feet propped up on the console, sipping a cup of coffee. Around him, the crew bantered back and forth, making jokes about the Empire's message. "Did you see how serious they were?" one crew member said, laughing. "They sounded like they were in a bad sci-fi flick." "Right," another chimed in. "Who even talks like that? Surrender or face annihilation, please. We've seen more intimidating villains in video games." Captain Torres chuckled, glancing at the screen displaying the Imperial fleet. "You know, I almost feel bad for them. They've clearly never met humans before." He sipped his coffee, savoring the moment. "Should we, I don't know, actually take this seriously?" The crew erupted in laughter again, and Torres grinned. "Nah, let's just see what they do next. Should be fun." Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zurak gave the order to power up the ship's primary weapon systems. A massive cannon, capable of destroying entire cities in a single shot, began to hum with energy. The weapons targeting systems locked onto one of the human ships, preparing to fire. "Perhaps now," Zurak said coldly, "they will understand the power of the Galactic Empire." The cannon fired, sending a beam of destructive energy hurtling towards the human fleet. The humans, still laughing and joking, seemed oblivious to the impending doom. But just as the energy beam was about to strike, a strange thing happened. The human ship's shields activated in the most casual manner possible, absorbing the energy as if it were nothing more than a mild inconvenience. The beam dissipated harmlessly, leaving the human ship completely untouched. Admiral Zurak blinked. His entire crew froze, staring at the screen in disbelief. The humans had shrugged off the Empire's most powerful weapon. Impossible. This couldn't be happening. Zurak's mind raced. How could these primitives possess such advanced technology? There had to be some mistake. On board the S.S. Casual Friday, the crew barely registered the attack. "Did something happen?" one of the crew members asked, looking up from a tablet. Torres glanced at the display, where the Empire's weapon had been absorbed by their shields. They're trying to shoot at us. Kinda cute, really. The crew exchanged amused glances. Should we do something about it? Another crew member asked, more out of politeness than concern. Torres shrugged. Nah, let them tire themselves out. They'll figure it out eventually. As the Empire's fleet scrambled to understand what had just happened, a second communication came through from the humans. This time, the tone was even more mocking. Hey, just wanted to let you guys know, your thingy didn't work. You might want to check the batteries or something. Anyway, we're busy over here, so if you could, stop shooting at us, that'd be great. Thanks. Zurak's face flushed with anger, his calm exterior cracking. How could this be happening? These humans were toying with them. He gave the order to prepare for a full-scale assault. Every ship in the Imperial fleet powered up its weapons, ready to unleash hell. This was no longer about conquest. This was personal. Admiral Zurak paced across the command deck, seething. His eyes scanned the array of holographic displays that showed the human fleet, still intact, still untouched, as though they were mocking the very existence of the Galactic Empire. Zurak's second-in-command, Commander Tarvek, approached cautiously. Sir, we've sent another request for their surrender, he said. Their response, well, it's not what we expected. Zurak snatched the datapad from Tarvek and read the human reply. His face twisted in disbelief. It was filled with crude jokes and light-hearted commentary, nothing that resembled a proper diplomatic response. Who are these imbeciles? Zurak muttered. Do they not understand the gravity of their situation? The human's response was a stark contrast to the Empire's usual experience. Where fear and submission would typically follow their ultimatum, these humans seemed to find the whole situation amusing. Zurak's knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the console. He would need to try again, more forcefully this time. The Emperor would expect nothing less than complete and unquestioned victory. Anything short of that would be an embarrassment. Once again, a transmission was sent to the human fleet. This time, Zurak himself addressed them. His voice boomed with authority. Humans, you are facing the might of the Galactic Empire. You have one final chance to surrender. Failure to comply will result in your immediate annihilation. We offer no further warnings. A pause followed. For a moment, the Empire's bridge was silent, the crew awaiting the human's reply. When it came, it was as unexpected as before. Hey, sorry about that, the human voice said. We've been busy playing a game. What was that about annihilation? Oh, right, you said something about destroying us. Yeah, we're not super worried about that. Honestly, you guys sound like you're trying way too hard. Have you considered, relaxing a bit? Zurak's jaw clenched. They mock us, Commander. They mock the very Empire itself. Tarvek nodded, unsure of what to say. Perhaps, Admiral, they do not understand the stakes. They may be culturally unaware. Unaware? Zurak nearly spat the word. They are either insane or profoundly foolish. No one speaks to the Empire in this way. No one. While Zurak's blood boiled, the humans continued their casual banter, seemingly unaware or entirely unbothered by the consequences. Zurak ordered the next phase to begin. A series of holographic emissaries were dispatched to the human fleet, an ancient tradition of the Empire that was meant to intimidate and awe. The emissaries, tall, robed figures with glowing eyes and stern voices, materialized on the humans' communication screens. Their purpose was simple, to convey the Empire's dominance through sheer presence. But the humans were unimpressed. The moment the emissaries began their formal declarations, the humans interrupted with laughter. Oh man, this is rich, one of the human commanders said. Are these guys for real? Is this some kind of theatrical production? Look at their robes. Seriously, who does this? Do they always dress like that? The emissaries continued their proclamation, undeterred. You face the might of the Galactic Empire, the rulers of countless worlds. You will. Yeah, we get it. The human commander cut in. You're the big bad Empire. But have you considered just chilling out? Maybe take a spa day? It might do wonders for your stress levels. You seem super tense. Zurak watched the exchange in disbelief. The Empire's finest emissaries were being mocked, their gravitas shattered by these irreverent humans. "End this farce," Zurak barked. The holographic images flickered out, leaving the Empire's crew in stunned silence. Zurak's hands shook with rage, his mind racing through their next options. "They refuse to take us seriously, Commander," he muttered. "This is a direct challenge to our authority." Tarvek, ever the diplomat, tried to offer an alternative. "Perhaps they are testing us, Admiral. Maybe we should consider other forms of negotiation." "Negotiation?" Zurak snapped. "No. These insolent creatures must be shown the full force of the Empire." Zurak's resolve hardened. He would not be humiliated by a primitive species. Every encounter in the Empire's history had ended in submission or destruction. These humans would be no different. He ordered the fleet to prepare for a full-scale attack. There would be no more warnings, no more attempts at diplomacy. The Empire's might would speak for itself. But even as the Imperial fleet prepared for battle, the humans continued to send light-hearted messages. One message in particular arrived just as the Imperial weapons systems were charging. "Hey guys, quick question. Does your Empire have, a suggestion box? Because we were thinking, maybe you should add some humor to your scripts. It might make this whole conquering the galaxy thing a lot more fun." Zurak's patience, already worn thin, snapped. "Enough," he hissed. "Prepare all weapons. Target their flagship. We will show them the consequences of their insolence." The crew worked quickly, their hands flying over controls as the massive Imperial warships aligned their guns on the human fleet. The countdown to fire began. The mood on the Imperial command deck was tense, a stark contrast to the carefree atmosphere aboard the human ships. The Empire fired its weapons, dozens of energy beams and missiles hurtling towards the human fleet. Zurak watched the screen, expecting to see the humans vaporized in a glorious display of firepower. But instead, the human ships barely moved. The attacks were deflected by their shields with minimal effort, and once again, the human response came back, casual as ever. "Wow, nice fireworks, guys. You really put on a show. But maybe next time give us a heads up so we can grab some popcorn. That was pretty entertaining." Zurak's frustration reached a boiling point. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "How can they be so nonchalant?" Commander Tarvek hesitated before offering his thoughts. "Sir, it's possible that they are technologically more advanced than we anticipated. Their shields, their communications, they seem far more capable than we initially thought." Zurak's eyes narrowed. "No. This is a ruse. It must be. No species is this flippant in the face of death." But even as he said the words, a sliver of doubt crept into his mind. What if these humans were unlike any species they had encountered before? What if their confidence was not mere arrogance, but something more? The humans continued their relentless barrage of jokes and light-hearted comments, making it impossible for the Empire to maintain any semblance of authority. Every attempt at intimidation was met with sarcasm and laughter. The Empire's carefully crafted image of dominance was crumbling. Zurak clenched his fists, staring at the screen in front of him. He had underestimated the humans, that much was clear. But he refused to accept defeat. The Empire had never lost a battle, and it would not lose now, not to these ridiculous, irreverent creatures. Admiral Zurak's frustration reached its peak as the Empire's first wave of attacks had little to no effect. The humans were treating the entire ordeal like a mild inconvenience. It was unfathomable. The Empire had crushed countless civilizations, yet here they were, being laughed at by a species that didn't even seem to comprehend the seriousness of the situation. Zurak knew something had to change. He would need to use every resource at his disposal to overwhelm the humans. The order was given for all ships in the Imperial fleet to prepare for a coordinated assault. The Empire's most advanced targeting systems locked onto multiple human vessels, their weaponry primed for destruction. The Imperial fleet was renowned for its precision and power. This time, there would be no mistakes, no underestimating the enemy. Every gun, missile, and laser would be fired simultaneously, leaving no room for the humans to dodge or block. As the countdown to the barrage began, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Zurak stood rigidly, staring at the screens, willing the humans to take this more seriously, to react with the fear and desperation he was used to seeing in weaker species. But instead, the human transmissions continued, sarcastic, flippant, and utterly calm. The moment arrived, and the Imperial fleet unleashed everything. The sky filled with streaks of energy, missiles, and high-intensity lasers, all converging on the human fleet in a display of raw power. Zurak watched, waiting for the moment of impact. But just as before, the humans barely flinched. Their ship's shields absorbed the attacks as though it were a minor inconvenience, effortlessly neutralizing the Empire's deadliest arsenal. The energy dispersed harmlessly into space, and the humans carried on as if nothing had happened. Zurak's heart sank as he realized the full extent of what he was up against. Somehow, the humans had developed technology that rendered the Empire's weapons ineffective. This wasn't just about military might anymore, it was about technology, and the humans were clearly far ahead in that department. "Sir," Commander Tarvek said quietly, "their technology is beyond anything we've encountered. We're not dealing with primitives. They've evolved beyond our understanding." Zurak didn't respond at first, his mind racing for alternatives. Could it be that the humans had spent their entire history preparing for this moment? Perhaps their laid-back attitude was a reflection of supreme confidence, a knowing calm that came from centuries of advancement. Whatever the case, Zurak knew that brute force wasn't going to work. The humans sent another message, this time with a mix of casual arrogance and playful mockery. "Nice try, guys. That was a solid effort. But seriously, have you considered upgrading your weapons? Maybe get some consultants in. We know a guy." Zurak gritted his teeth. "How are they doing this?" he muttered under his breath. The Empire's fleet had thrown everything at the humans, yet they remained completely unscathed. His mind raced with possibilities, but none of them offered a clear path forward. The humans were simply too well prepared, too advanced. Meanwhile, the human ships began to maneuver, not with aggression, but with precision. They didn't need to retaliate with force. Instead, they started to employ strategic maneuvers that left the Empire's fleet in disarray. The humans had clearly studied the Empire's battle tactics, and they countered them with effortless ease, making the Empire's formations look clumsy and outdated. "Sir, they're disrupting our formations," Tarvek pointed out, watching the human ships on the screen. "They're picking us apart without even firing a shot." It was true. The humans weren't attacking directly, but they didn't need to. They were using their superior technology and tactics to outmaneuver the Empire's fleet, rendering their offensive capabilities useless. The Empire's ships, built for overwhelming firepower, were too slow and too rigid to adapt to the humans' fluid movements. Zurak slammed his fist on the console in frustration. "They're toying with us," he growled. "We are the Galactic Empire, and we are being humiliated." The Empire's fleet scrambled to respond, but it was clear that they were outclassed. The humans had turned the battle into a game of cat and mouse, and the Empire was the mouse. Ships collided as the Empire's admirals gave conflicting orders, desperate to regain control of the situation. But the humans' casual demeanor only seemed to increase with every misstep the Empire made. As the humans continued their maneuvers, they began sending tactical advice to the Empire, thinly veiled as jokes. "You know, if you guys spaced out your ships a little more, you might avoid those collisions. Just saying." Zurak's patience was wearing thin. The humans were not only outmaneuvering them but mocking them at every turn. It was unbearable. How had this happened? The Empire had never encountered a species like this before. Most civilizations crumbled in the face of their power, but the humans were laughing it off. Despite the Empire's overwhelming numbers, it was clear that they had no way to penetrate the humans' defenses. Every attempt to engage was met with failure. And every failure was met with another round of human mockery. You know, you really should stop trying that same attack. It's not working. But hey, don't worry, we all have our off days. Zurak could hardly believe what he was hearing. His fleet, the pride of the Empire, was being outwitted by a group of jokesters who seemed to treat the entire battle like a casual afternoon activity. It was infuriating. But there was nothing the Empire could do. Every plan, every tactic, every strategy they employed was effortlessly countered by the humans, and always with a smile. As the battle wore on, it became clear to everyone on the Imperial command deck that they were losing, not just in terms of strategy, but in terms of morale. The humans had completely turned the tide, not through overwhelming force, but through sheer wit and superior technology. Zurak knew that retreat was the only option, but the thought of admitting defeat to these humans was almost too much to bear. He could already imagine how the news would be received in the Empire, how his name would be dragged through the mud for losing to a species that didn't even take the Empire seriously. But there was no choice. The humans had proven themselves superior, not through aggression, but through cunning. They had outclassed the Empire at every turn, and they had done it with a smile on their faces. Zurak gave the order. Pull back. We'll regroup and reassess. As the Empire's fleet began to retreat, the final message from the humans came through, cheerful and light-hearted as ever. Hey, thanks for the sparring match. That was fun. Let us know if you ever want to try again, maybe bring some new tricks next time. Zurak slumped into his chair, his mind swirling with thoughts of what had just transpired. The Empire had never encountered a species like the humans before, and it was clear that they were in a class of their own. The humans had not only beaten the Empire, they had made it look easy. For the first time in his career, Zurak felt something unfamiliar, doubt. As the Empire's fleet pulled back, Admiral Zurak stared at the screen in disbelief. His mind raced, trying to grasp the magnitude of what had just happened. He had come to this engagement fully expecting another easy conquest, another species added to the Empire's endless list of subjugated worlds. But the humans had turned everything on its head. They hadn't just defeated the Empire, they had done it with such casual indifference that it almost didn't feel like a battle at all. It felt like a joke. Zurak's hands gripped the armrests of his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. He glanced around the bridge, seeing the looks of confusion and disbelief on his crew's faces. They had witnessed the same thing he had, an encounter that had stripped away the Empire's grandeur and left them exposed. For the first time, Zurak felt a crushing weight of humiliation. The humans, still transmitting their irreverent messages, offered no pursuit. They didn't need to. Their victory wasn't just a tactical one, it was psychological. They had dismantled the Empire's image without even trying, and now, as Zurak's fleet limped away from the battlefield, he knew that word of this defeat would spread. It would be impossible to hide. The mighty Galactic Empire, brought to its knees by a species that didn't even bother to take them seriously. A final transmission came through from the human fleet. Good luck out there, folks! Remember, don't take life too seriously, you'll never get out of it alive. Anyway, we'll be here if you want a rematch. Maybe next time we can play cards or something. The bridge of the Imperial ship remained silent. No one dared speak. Zurak closed his eyes, breathing deeply, trying to steady himself. The Empire had never faced such humiliation before, not in all its history. There had always been losses, of course, no empire was flawless. But this wasn't just a loss. This was a defeat on every level, strategic, technological, and worst of all, in terms of reputation. The humans had made them look like fools. Zurak knew that the retreat would mark him for the rest of his career. The Emperor would hear of this, and the Council would likely call for answers. He would be expected to explain how a fleet as vast and powerful as the one under his command had been forced to retreat by a species so nonchalant, so absurdly unconcerned with the Empire's strength. Sir? Commander Tarvek's voice broke the silence. What do we report to High Command? Zurak sighed, feeling the weight of the question. What could he possibly say? How could he explain this encounter in terms that would make sense to the Emperor, to the generals who had never encountered such a bizarre situation. There was no way to frame it that wouldn't make the Empire look weak, vulnerable. "Tell them the truth," Zurax said finally, his voice low. "We encountered a species that is beyond our understanding. Their technology is more advanced than we anticipated. We were outmaneuvered at every turn." Tarvek hesitated. "And the part about their attitude?" Zurax's expression darkened. "Leave that out." The crew began to carry out their tasks, preparing the official report for High Command. But as they worked, Zurax could see the unease on their faces. They had seen the same thing he had. The humans had toyed with them, mocked them, and rendered the Empire's might irrelevant with nothing more than humor and casual deflection. As the Imperial fleet moved further away from the human ships, Zurax's thoughts shifted to the future. What would the galaxy make of this encounter? The Empire's reputation had been built on centuries of dominance, on the idea that no species could resist them. But now, that image had been shattered. The humans had shown that they weren't just another primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were something else entirely, something that didn't play by the same rules as everyone else. In the days that followed, rumors began to spread throughout the galaxy. Stories of the humans' encounter with the Galactic Empire took on a life of their own, growing more exaggerated with each retelling. Some claimed that the humans had the power to destroy entire fleets with a thought, while others suggested that they had simply laughed the Empire into submission. The truth, as always, became twisted, but one thing remained constant: the humans were not to be underestimated. For the humans, the encounter with the Galactic Empire became a source of endless amusement. They joked about it in their communications, shared stories of the overly serious aliens they had faced, and even turned the event into a meme that spread across their networks. It was just another day for them, another encounter with yet another species that didn't understand their way of doing things. But for the Empire, the encounter left a deep scar. Admiral Zurax's name became synonymous with failure, and though he remained in his position, his reputation was forever tarnished. The Emperor, furious but pragmatic, chose not to punish Zurax directly, knowing that the loss was as much a result of the humans' unpredictability as it was any tactical error. Instead, the Empire turned its attention to studying the humans, trying to understand how a species so seemingly carefree could possess such advanced technology and strategic prowess. Reports of the humans' capabilities filtered through the Empire's intelligence network, and scientists were tasked with analyzing their technology. But no matter how much the Empire studied, they couldn't replicate the humans' easygoing nature, their ability to deflect threats with humor and wit. It was something that couldn't be quantified or engineered. It was just human. As the Empire licked its wounds and prepared for future encounters, one thing became clear: the humans were a force unlike any other. They weren't interested in conquest or domination. They didn't need to be. Their strength lay in their adaptability, their unpredictability, and their refusal to take anything, especially the Galactic Empire, too seriously. In time, the Empire learned to tread carefully around humans. Diplomacy replaced brute force, and though the Empire remained powerful, they knew better than to engage the humans in open conflict. The memory of that first encounter, of the humans laughing in the face of the Empire's might, lingered like a shadow over every future decision. For the humans, life went on as usual. They continued exploring the galaxy, making new discoveries, and encountering new species. And every so often, they would get a message from an Imperial envoy, carefully worded and diplomatically phrased, as if to avoid any misunderstanding. The humans would always respond the same way, with a smile and a joke, never taking the threat too seriously. Because in the end, they knew something that the Empire didn't: they didn't need to.